I mean, it's pretty fun last weekend, right? At the
At the birthday party?
yeah. Did you ever think you would say you had fun at an 80-year-old birthday party? An
Well,
80-year?
probably not if you asked me when I was 17 or 23.
No, but we did because it was with the Stevens.
Yeah, it was great.
Mrs. Stevens, Aunt B turned 80, so it was a little surprise birthday party.
Yeah,
It was pretty fun. But for Stevens, can you believe they put it right during game time?
I know. And
Michigan State basketball.
I think Jeanette and Joelle apologized like 5 times.
What were we thinking?
What were we thinking?
Yeah, we gave them a hard time about it, but it's all right. We figured it out. I watched the end of it on my phone
You and Mike both
at the table. Yeah.
huddled around your phone.
I mean, it's always fun seeing that because their family is so tight.
Yep.
And they get together. And I mean, Joelle's an hour away.
Mike and Marsha are an hour away.
But they're still together all the time and going to games and super tight, which is
They're friends.
Yeah.
In
which
addition
has
to family.
always been a model for us. And it's just kind of grown together.
Yeah.
At the same time because Mike and Marsha's kids are a little bit younger than ours, but
Carissa's a
kinda
year
mix.
younger than Toby. And
Yeah.
Ashley's 2 years younger than Toby. So they're pretty close.
But anyway, they're doing the adult kid thing
Mm-hmm.
just like we are now, and they've got good, responsible, funny
Mm-hmm.
adult kids.
Yeah.
Which we think we do too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And Mike and Joelle and Jeanette are those adult responsible kids for Larry and Bernie, you know, and the relationship that they have. And it's
Mhm.
nice to see that across generations.
Yeah. Do you have that experience this week, kind of?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I don't think I've shared with you yet was I walked into PT on Thursday and it's Zach's clinic, right? And it was the first time I've been in this clinic. And it was this kind of surreal moment because, and I've seen him in action. I've done PT at, you know, the first clinic that he started with, but now he's like the clinical director, like he's the boss. So not only did I get to see him treating patients, but like realizing the PT I was working with and like, you know, Josh at the desk, like he's their boss. It was really wild. And I was, you know, just kind of observing because, you know, that proud mom moment of my adult kid. And I had this realization, like, I could picture him as like a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old. And he is still like the charming, super smart, sarcastic, funny, engaging kid at 30 as he was at 15, at 12, at 8, you know, all those different things. But it was just really cool, like stepping back and realizing like, wow, he's a full-fledged adult with a family and responsibilities and thinking he turned out pretty great. It was a good moment.
Yep.
Yeah. Welcome to Becoming Chicken Pop, a podcast about our family, past and present, for our family in the future.
We discuss family, marriage, faith, and all the things that made us Chicken Pop.
Chicken Pop, it's just the best. Let's kick off this episode with kind of one of our favorite weekly prompts. What made you laugh, smile, cry this week?
Well, no surprise here. Mine involves Miles again. I don't know if it's not every week, but it's sort of turning into a regular Mexican food night.
Every
with the
other
family.
week, once a month. Yeah.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah.
If we throw it out there, everybody's ready to go. So we did again this week, and we all went to our little favorite local Mexican restaurant. So the way it goes lately is Zach and or Toby, when the check comes, their arms get real short. We've talked about this before.
It's the family joke,
which is always a fun laugh. But Miles has started to want to do the paying, so he goes with me. 2 of our restaurants, we have to go pay at the counter.
Yeah.
Weird is that?
Yeah.
First of all, he said, "Pop, we get some peppermint patties."
AKA peppermint patties.
So he always wants to get some for the whole family and then hand them out. Um, but we go over there and it's just become a natural thing now. I grab one of their chairs, scoot it up um,
To the counter.
to the counter, and he does all the work with the card and the little keypad and everything.
Yep.
And so this is kind of about Miles, but the other part is there's this guy that works there that's got to be one of the older guys.
One
I
of the
don't know if
senior
he's the
members of the family.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he always seems just a little bit grumpy, a little standoffish, and just don't bother me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time we did this, he was at the cash register, and Miles hopped up on the chair and started doing it, and this guy just started smiling because of his grandkids, and he
Right.
just loved the whole moment. So it was it was fun with Miles, but it was also just great seeing this guy's shell crack a little bit,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which mine is fully cracked because
Right.
Miles just owns me. But
Mm-hmm.
so that was a nice little 2-part smile for me. How about you?
I think for me, I don't think I've shared this with you either yet, but I think for me it's more like the cry the last week. So last week would have been Emma's 10th birthday.
Mm.
So Emma Louise is our niece. She was born February 27th, 2015. It would have been her 10th birthday. And Emma only lived 12 days.
10 years already, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, I think it was one of those kind of days, weeks where it was sad and then sad. But also I think kind of happy tears at just thinking about what a gift her life was to, I mean, obviously her parents, Rob and Amber, us, but so many people. And like the stories that we've heard even years later about that experience and the impact that she had on people. Yeah. So anyway, I'd love to share more about Emma's story and maybe have Rob and Amber on someday and talk a little bit more about Emma and that story.
Mm-hmm. With lots of stops because it's very emotional.
It is, for sure. But it's a beautiful story.
Yep.
And one that should be celebrated.
Well, as we might often do, and so I can try and help you get past your tears a little bit here. Let's just shift gears.
Lighter moments.
Just like you have to do with me sometimes.
That's right.
Let's move to this. And I don't know if you have any of these
I
yet,
do.
but you do?
I'm ready to go.
All right. We're going to do a couple oldie wed questions.
All right. You want to go first?
I will go first.
Question for me.
Okay. Our whole family would probably know this one, but what is the strangest work outfit I've had while working at home?
The strangest work outfit.
Mm-hmm. What's the strangest thing I've worked in during a day?
I mean, it all depends on your definition of strange.
I thought this was going to be really easy.
I don't know. It could be a robe. It could be a swimsuit.
I was going to go with towel.
Oh, towel. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
I mean, it's one of my nicknames with.
I mean, you don't work the
boys.
whole work day, but I have seen you get to lunchtime and you're still in a towel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was just, I found that to be one of the strangest, which it doesn't happen anymore.
No, it still does. I've come out a few mornings in the last couple weeks.
I'll start my day that way.
Yeah.
But when we were still at Pine Ridge and I was just getting used to it,
yeah,
I'd go in there planning to take a shower, and then it would be afternoon.
Yeah, because you got caught up in something hot. And
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, I thought you'd get that one much quicker. How about one for me?
Okay. What food did I absolutely refuse to eat as a kid? And I still don't enjoy this food, but bleh.
I'm thinking beverage.
It wasn't a beverage.
Oh, because I was going to say milk.
No.
Cereal?
No.
Peanut butter?
I'll even, what vegetable? Do you know that one? still do not enjoy it.
This is weird. I should know this. Vegetable.
Because yours would be mushrooms.
I don't want to drag this out too long. You let me know.
Peas.
Really?
Ah, there's just something about the texture. Mushy, cooked peas.
I thought you
Disgusting.
eat them in stuff like a pot pie.
I will eat them in like fried rice or in a pot pie or like frozen peas in a salad. But like just peas as a side dish, disgusting. Just
right.
disgusting.
I'm surprised that I don't mind them because
Ugh.
my mom used to heat them up out of a can, and they were pretty nasty.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was a trick question because I've seen you eat a lot of peas
Uh-huh.
in things, and you don't pick them out like I do mushrooms, so
True.
can't be that
Well, I've grown up, and that's why I said,
terrible.
did I refuse to eat as a kid?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, let's stick on that theme.
All right.
And you should know this one right away. And Pastor Mark the other day was talking about it, which is what made me think of it. That he can't eat certain type of sweet and sour pork or something anymore.
Yeah.
What's the food that I can't even think about or smell anymore, let alone eat?
Yep. Pasta salad.
Pasta salad.
Yep.
I knew you'd know that one right away.
Mm-hmm.
Big ol' hurl moment in college after eating that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't drunk.
Nope.
It wasn't
No, it was like
anything like
we
that.
had the flu
It
or
was like the
something.
middle of the day, and then I got sick.
Yeah.
And at the same time as we decided to have all this pasta salad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even smell it across the room still.
All right. Same question back to you then. What's one food that I got sick on and have not been able to tolerate since? And this goes back to my childhood, but I've told this story many times.
I'm failing
It's
hard
a
today.
canned food that kids love. You like it. SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, that would make a nasty mess.
Can I tell you the story?
Sure.
Okay, so, my mom and dad used to bowl in this league together, this mixed league on Saturday nights. And so my mom was feeding us a quick dinner before they went to the bowling alley, and it was SpaghettiOs. And I just told, I don't want to eat this. I didn't want to eat it. She made me eat it. I was really upset about it. I literally walked out through the garage door into the driveway and threw up SpaghettiOs all over the hood of my dad's Ford Pinto wagon.
Ooh.
Have not been. I can't even tolerate the smell. SpaghettiOs, ravioli, canned ravioli, like any of that Chef Boyardee Franco-American stuff. Oh, can't do it.
And I guarantee it probably looked exactly the same as when it was in your bowl.
Yeah, it did.
That's the thing about
100%.
SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, you don't chew, you just kind of swallow.
You do, though.
I don't know. It's just gross.
Somehow Zach used to throw up full French fries from his top bunk, though.
True story on multiple occasions.
I know he chewed them, but it's like they reformed or something.
I know.
Well, that's a lot of puke.
Lovely conversation. How about we move into our topic
Let's
for
do
today's episode? So, kind of building on the theme of seeing Zach in action as an adult this week, I thought it would be fun to talk about, the joys of transitioning to parenting and being the parents of adult children, right? I feel like when we talk about parenting, it's so focused on raising children, right? And then people talk about the empty nest stage, but you don't really hear people talk a lot about like what comes after that and what that relationship looks like when you're parenting adult children.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to put some percentage on it, but there's several that just don't last after that.
Yeah. Because, like your role as a parent doesn't stop when your kids are 18 or 22 or whatever that is, right? There's no like end to being a parent. You're always a parent. And I think we've always heard, oh, just wait till they go away. Wait till they're grown up. Well, great. Then what? But you never get the then what.
What do you mean, just wait until? What was the follow-up to that you heard a lot?
I mean, like you do your job and then you set them free. Like the implication that your job is done, and empty nest is just this horrible thing that people experience and it's heartbreaking and you really lose yourself for a while. And I don't know, that just wasn't our experience.
Well, I have to say we're pretty fortunate there too.
Yeah.
Um, some of our friends that we grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
that our kids grew up with, the
Mm-hmm.
Mowats,
Yep.
they were great parents, tight family,
Yeah.
but it's not as easy for them because all their kids, phew,
Yeah.
spread far and wide.
Yeah.
So we haven't had to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess we've had that advantage or different dynamic
Yeah.
that we've had them close.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you were mentioning, we had a very gradual shift to empty nest
Yeah. Let's talk
because of
about
our
that.
situation at Pine Ridge.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think our situation and kind of the way that we went from raising children, right? So let's talk about raising children from birth to college age, right? And then you've got like those college year transitions. And for some families, empty nest starts during college. For some families, it starts after college, whatever that looks like. And sometimes you get a little bit during college and then they come back home for a while, right? So, but I think for us, just to kind of level set what our experience was, we lived in the duplex, so the duplex is tied to this story.
Hmm.
Zach went away to Michigan State, which was 5 miles. He lived on campus his first year, right? And the whole time Zach was in college, those 4 years at Michigan State, Toby was still at home in high school. When Zach lived on campus or lived in an apartment, he was minutes away. So there wasn't like a big distance thing. We still saw him most weekends at some point. And then obviously he came home in the summers and he worked. And then when Zach graduated from Michigan State, Toby went away to college, but Shelby moved into the duplex.
Hmm.
So we had Zach on our side of the duplex, Shelby on the other side of the duplex. And yes, Toby was in Grand Rapids, so he was, maybe an hour and a half away. But we had Zach and Shelby that were still in the house. Zach was commuting to grad school.
So a very rare dynamic of, well, at least in American culture,
Yeah.
of under our roof, but still fully
Adults.
autonomous adults.
Right.
So there was that, again, very gradual
It was a transition. And, we weren't raising them, but we still just got to interact and be a big part of their lives, probably more so than a lot of parents get to do with children that age.
I think some of that's on their generation too, though.
Yeah.
They're just,
Yeah.
what are they, Gen Z?
Gen Z?
Gen Z?
Yeah.
Just in general, they take much longer to launch.
Yeah.
And
they're not in a big hurry.
Honestly, one of the simple explanations for that, I think, is that they can be on your insurance till they're 26 years old.
It's true. Makes a huge difference.
When I was coming out of college, I was like done with insurance when we got married.
Right.
So
right.
You had
Yeah.
you had to make sure you were moving and
You had to have a job and have
benefits and all that
insurance
stuff.
and
So
yeah.
um,
And so
which is great for them, but it takes some of the urgency
yes.
off of making that shift.
So I think one of the other really interesting things about this kind of like whole transition was Toby's last semester in college was spring of 2020, COVID. So that March, everything shut down. Shelby was a teacher, which meant no school. Zach was a PT, which meant his clinic was shut down. And Toby got sent home from school. He didn't go back to college. He didn't have a physical graduation. So under the roof of this duplex, we had 3 adult children who couldn't work yet, that had nothing to do for months. And I was just telling somebody, we were just talking about this the other day. Oh, it was at the Stevens graduation party. We were talking about rock band. Like we rock band. Ashley Stevens was talking about it. And she was trying to find it because she thought Levi would just absolutely love it. And it's really hard to find. Like they don't make it anymore. And I was telling her about how our kids dragged out the Wii and rock band during those COVID months, and they'd play rock band for hours every afternoon. But that was interesting. And over that period of time, just to kind of wrap up this timeline, Zach and Shelby had just bought their first house. So the 3 of them started cleaning up and, working on this house together during that time. Zach and Shelby moved out. They finished kind of the work and the remodel so they could move into their new house, and then Toby moved into the other side of that duplex. And so our transition to empty nesters, like truly having an empty nest where there was no one under the roof, wasn't until we moved into until we left the duplex and moved into our house now. That was the first time we were really, truly like empty nesters.
We more flew the nest than they did.
Yeah. Yeah. And not in a bad way, not because we were trying to get away from them. I don't think anybody believes that at this point if they have listened to any of our episodes, but yeah. So anyway, our journey to like being empty nesters was a very gradual transition.
Even at that, do you think there were any tough adjustments you went through?
I mean, when we moved, the day that we moved Zach onto campus his freshman year, I was just a freaking hot mess. Like we have a picture of us, Zach and I, standing in the driveway, like with a loaded car behind us, and you can just, my face is like red and puffy, and it was ridiculous.
It was a real flashback to the first day of preschool. For him.
Preschool.
You were a mess that day too.
Well, I was also 8 months pregnant. Zach's first day of preschool. I mean, that was probably the toughest transition in that whole journey, right? And then it's like, okay, I survived this. He's really not far. It's going to be okay. And so when Toby went away to college, you know, we'd already had that experience with Zach, and I was like, okay, I know he's going to come home. I know, because I'd been through it, right? And I could hang on to that. So I think like when you can hang on to those moments in the past where it gives you hope for the future and you kind of know what to expect and can lean into that, it makes it a little easier.
And some of that is which child it was.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, when Tobes went away, I missed him a lot.
Yeah.
Because when Zach was at college, first of all, he lived at home 2 of those years.
Yeah.
But when he was away, he was home a lot, getting food, doing laundry, just hanging out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And even if he was away, Tobes was still there.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
And we hung out a ton. But then being the second one, when he went away to college, and he went fully away to college, and we only saw him once a month sometimes. That was, I mean, I remember commenting on it to you that I'm missing Toby pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that was one of the tougher ones.
Yeah.
You know, again, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but
yeah,
we've definitely shifted into the whole friend stage at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that's evident, you know, by the little things like, you know, you get a text from out of the blue, hey, what are you up to today? You know, when our kids are seeking us out and we're not the ones that are always doing the inviting, the engaging, the...
Oh, I think I've said in the past they're better at it than us, really.
Yeah.
Of making sure we get out and do stuff with them. Also in a weird transition of being grandparents and still, you know, fully in the middle of our careers.
Right.
We can be pretty tired at night or at the end of the week.
Yeah.
But they make sure to involve us and that we are involved. And I do, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've let them know that before.
Yeah.
So how about that balance between parent and friendship? Do you find that tough at all for you?
I don't anymore. I think it was a little tough to find the balance in the early years, you know? But I think we're in a pretty good place now. And I mean, part of that just comes with time and experience and like deepening the relationship, right? You kind of have to feel it out. You know, there are times when you really want to step in and say, well, I think you should do this, 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 and this.
Probably more so for you because that's
just my nature.
Built into you.
Yeah. I like to be the boss. But, you know, I think, again, our kids have shown us that they are capable, responsible, wise, beyond their years, right? And so I don't feel the need to step in and intervene in any way, shape, or form.
I think that's one of the nice things about the friendship angle of it is it often comes up more organically or in conversation. Spending a lot of times with Zach and Chubb.
Right.
with Miles,
Mm-hmm.
I can hear her just bouncing stuff
Yeah.
off you. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think of this and this and
Yeah.
this? And
And not that she's
then
looking
it's
for
not like,
advice. It's more like, I think, number one, sharing her thoughts and just looking for maybe additional outside validation. Like, okay, I'm on the right track.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it's never really been in my nature to try and force advice on people. I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope my approach is always live it more than speak it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of specific examples,
Mm.
but I know there's times
Mm-hmm.
when the boys are doing something the same way I did,
Mm-hmm.
or especially treating people the same way,
Mm-hmm.
speaking to them the same way.
Right.
And I've had those moments where I'm like, man, I'm glad this is how I spoke to people. Or I said to Zach, and now you know how much that little kid is watching you.
Right.
So it doesn't stop when they're littles,
Mm-hmm.
toddlers, teenagers.
Yeah.
It keeps going, and it's not just your
Yeah.
kids; it's everyone. So
Yeah.
that's a broader statement there, I guess.
It is, I was thinking this morning, like I was in the shower thinking about recording this episode a little while ago. And one of the things that kept kind of like coming back in a few different ways was this idea that, and I had to stop and remind myself of this as a young parent, especially, that the goal is to raise kind, responsible adults. So you're dealing with a 3-year-old meltdown, right? And so in the moment, like, how do you step back and put it into context? Like, this is just a moment. Like, let's look at the end goal, right? Beyond whatever this moment is.
Are you talking about with Miles now, or thinking back to?
I'm thinking about back to when our kids, right? So, but anyway, like, when you're dealing with parenting, like, our goal ultimately as parents should be to raise responsible adults, right? But at the same time, it's also about it's thinking about when they are adults, how is the way that I'm raising them and building this relationship now, how is that influencing and building into the relationship that I'm going to have when they're an adult?
Did you think about that consciously back
I
then?
think I did, because I think I had examples of people who did it well and people who didn't do it well. I think you have to be mindful that, like, what you're putting into small children is going to contribute to what you get out of them as an adult.
I think I knew the answer to that before I asked it.
Yeah.
Because last episode we covered a lot of that, a
Yeah.
lot of the intentional
Right.
things that we tried to build in for when they were adults.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a oversimplified thing I was thinking of this morning though. Also, what's the first place you go to when you need advice these days?
I had a very similar thought, but yeah, I think our kids.
Oh no, I was gonna say you Google it.
Well, yes. Well,
Unless it's like,
it depends on the kind of advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like necessarily deep relationship stuff, but see, I'm thinking like a man right now,
Of course.
where advice comes in. How do you do this, and how do you fix this? And
You're talking about how-tos then, and not advice.
yeah, but I mean that's very man.
It is, yeah.
Thought process for advice. So if I can sidetrack, it also made me think of one of those moments that made me laugh with Zach. Toby was always just like a work with me, watch, figure it out, and he's off and running.
Mm-hmm.
Zach was we've all come to the understanding he was lazy as a kid, and he'll admit it.
Yeah.
So I have this memory of taking him out to learn how to change
a tire,
the wheel, and put the spare tire on the car. And he got like through 2 lug nuts, and then he was just laying down on the driveway and covering his head like, this is the worst thing ever. Why am I gonna have to learn this? I think we finally got through it, but he like tantrum laid in the middle of the driveway. You remember that?
I do. I can picture him in his sweatpants and hoodie, and I think you do.
Find it.
Yeah. Oh.
So anyway, before I derailed that,
Yeah.
I said, where do you go first
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
you need advice?
Mm-hmm. And I said, kid, like we talked things through with our kids. And it's interesting. I was thinking about like one of the first moments that really stands out to me where our kids gave us like really valuable advice. And it was the first thing that came to my mind, but it was actually when we bought this house, right? And so it kind of happened really fast. Much faster. We didn't think we were going to be buying a house then. We thought it would be a few years out. And so we were faced with this decision, what do we do with a duplex? And, Zach and Shelby were like, let's talk about this. Like, we want to talk with you about this. Right. And, had a great conversation with them. And I think like, their perspective was, this duplex is amazing rental property in a very desired area in school district. And like, I don't think you should sell, you know? If you can afford to hold on to it, I don't think you should sell. And we kind of talked that through with them on several different occasions. And I just remember like them coming to us and say, I think you should really consider this. And it was just, I don't know, it's just one of those moments that really stand, like I really appreciated that. I think what they said was really wise. We took that advice, but it was great to be able to kind of have that conversation with them and tap into them in that way.
For me, honestly, I try not to ask our kids about their specialties
Mm-hmm.
that much.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
I
ask,
do.
you do. And they probably think I do more, but I really
Yeah.
try to restrain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would ask Zach about my legs hurting or
Mm-hmm.
hips and what I should do. And he's a lot like me.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to talk about it a lot. So I'll get a short, quick answer
Stretch more.
with kind of a, yeah, don't bother me. Be more flexible. Be younger.
Mm-hmm. That's
Get.
usually what it is.
Yeah. Tobes I usually
Mm-hmm.
ping stuff off of a lot
Mm-hmm.
as a general practice type doctor. That's not where he
He's
works
a
right now,
PA.
but he has that
He's an NP,
training.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean he'll check my lab work and
Yeah.
make recommendations
Yep.
and
Look at your medications and yeah.
I respect his opinion on some of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
I will ping him on those things.
Yeah.
So health is a big thing.
Right.
Where you do need advice sometimes.
Yep.
So I will use them on that one. That's for sure.
I don't think I overwhelm them. I mean, I did ask Zach last weekend, like, hey, I have a doctor's appointment and so here's how I approach it. And I think it was just the right amount. You tell me if I'm wrong. I said, hey, I've got a doctor's appointment this week. I've had this thing going on with my shoulder since before Christmas. Do I need imaging? Do they just need to send me to PT? What do you think? Right. And he moved my shoulder around a little bit and he's like, well, they're not going to pay for imaging. An x-ray is not really going to show anything. They're not going to pay for an MRI until you try PT. So probably they just need to send you to PT. So I went to the doctor. They ordered PT. Now I'm in PT. And it took, 3 minutes of his time. I don't think he minded that.
Yeah. Well, you're a paying customer now also.
True. True.
He's nicer to you.
He's very nice.
He's nice to me. I'm joking, but
he's
he
more sarcastic to you than he is to me.
Well, that's for sure.
Because you're more sarcastic to him than I am. Right? So anyway, I think, our kids are very wise, mature, smart, responsible people. And so one of the things I really appreciate about this stage of life is that we can have like really open, honest conversations with them. And I actually really value their perspective, their advice, their insight in ways of looking at things that maybe we hadn't considered, So it's really valuable to be able to have those conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say our conversations are, just kind of building on that? Like, how are they different now versus when they were younger? Is there...
Well, I think maybe it seems obvious, but when they're younger, it's definitely more instructional.
Mm,
Um, I mean, here's what you should do. This is probably going to work for you. This isn't going to work for you.
mhm.
Now it's well, here's something that's worked for me.
Yeah.
You can take it or leave it, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that's the gentler, more acceptable way to
Right.
have those conversations.
Yeah.
And side, I'm the master of the side point. Side note:
You are.
this podcast is the ultimate take it or leave it. We get to throw this kind of stuff out here, but it's like one of my promises with this podcast.
Mhm.
I'm not going to ask if you're listening, and I'm not going to ask if you like it. It's the ultimate take it or leave it, in my opinion.
All right.
But anyway, that's how I feel the conversations go these days. How about you?
Mhm. No, I think so. I think I would totally agree with that, and I think we've shown enough over the years that we're not going to try to insert ourselves in ways that they don't want us to. Maybe they're even like unwritten boundaries or our ideas of what they're like respect their autonomy within their marriages or their families, right? We're not going to try to push ourselves in ways that maybe they don't want us to be. But at the same time, what I think that allows is like, oh, they're inviting us in more, right?
And we've discussed this previously too, and I think that's part of the reason I appreciate them including us
Mm-hmm.
and going out of their way to make sure we're included is
Mm-hmm.
because I have that unhealthy fear of being
Yeah.
too too much like my mom could be,
Mm-hmm.
living right next door
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
and trying to be a part of
Yep.
everything we wanted to do with friends, and
Mm-hmm.
there needed
Mm-hmm.
to be some of that space.
Right.
So I think we're starting now to balance.
Yeah. We're not trying to overcompensate
Not
for our
yeah, not
experience.
yeah, because I mean it can get to the point where it feels like I'm disinterested, and that's not the case at all.
Right.
So I think we've all come to that understanding. So I
Yeah.
think we can move on from that one.
Yeah. I think I don't know, if you were talking to somebody that is in those empty nest years, or they have, their children are now in the early adult stages of life, what kind of advice would you give them? Like what have you learned that other people may find helpful?
You mean at this point or heading into it?
Yeah, like heading into it, or maybe it's at this point. I think either or. What are some of the
I think the biggest one for heading into it, and I know this has been said by other people almost to the point of a cliche that you better make sure you like each other
mm,
before the kids leave.
yeah,
Um, and that fortunately that was never a problem with us. We've
right.
been best friends literally since we met,
Yeah,
I would say.
within
Um,
weeks of when we met.
yeah. So our kids just added on to that.
Yeah.
Um, I I'd like to say that was like a whole conscious thing by us and something we did really well, but I think we were just fortunate enough
Mhm.
to be with our person and
Yeah.
add on
Yeah.
to our people.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you can kind of see it coming sometimes where people are only together
Right.
from their kids.
Right.
It's a common theme in movies and TV shows
Right.
enough that it's based on reality, of course, and
Yep.
we've seen it from parents of kids that our kids went to through
Sure.
school with.
Sure.
And you
Yeah.
see it coming, and sure enough,
Yeah.
as soon as they were out,
Kids
it was
graduate high school, there goes the marriage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can never give that advice in air quotes early enough
Mhm.
because it's generally maybe too late. And now we're getting into that marriage relationship advice that we're not qualified for other than our own experience.
I think, again, it goes back to our premise. We're not professionals, but
Hmm.
we've been at it for a long time and we've been pretty successful at it. So if
Yeah.
other people can learn from our example, then great.
Telling you what worked for us.
Exactly.
And I mean, hopefully you had that friendship at some point. So
Mm,
just fostering it, especially when they're middle school, high school, and you see it coming where you're
Yeah.
going to be together again.
Yeah. I would say
Do-
fostering.
let me go back to that. Do
Yeah.
you think that we did anything intentional to foster that as our kids were getting to that age?
Um,
'Cause I don't really feel like we did. I feel like we were just fortunate.
I think there's a few things that we did kind of over the course of years. So I think, everybody recommends date nights, and we were
Hmm.
good at it for some periods of time and not good at it for others. And there were reasons behind all of those. But I think when we could be intentional about it, we tried to be intentional about spending time just the two of us, right? I think another thing that we did was, especially when our kids were younger, was we spent time with other married couples talking about marriage and relationships. So, Bible studies and small group type of activities that were designed to strengthen and support marriage. And we spent a lot of time investing in those kind of activities, right? So, I think again, that was gave us a big leg up where it was really advantageous to us. And I think the other thing that I just want to say is like, making sure you maintain that relationship and the friendship aspect with your spouse is really important. But as your kids get older, especially when they get into those high school years, you have to be mindful and allow that relationship to shift before they leave the house.
Hmm.
You what are you doing to invest in that friendship and start to build to transition from the parent role to the friend role? And really being intentional about that makes a huge difference for your relationship with your child, right? And if that's going well, it's only going to enhance the relationship with you have with your spouse. Like one of the things that I love and appreciate most about you is what a great dad you are and the relationship that you have with your boys and Emily and Shelby and Miles, right? Like that's one of my favorite things. And it's one of the things that we have in common. It's one of the things that we spend so much time talking about, that we invest in. It's such a core part of our relationship is the relationships that we have with other people and those people that are important to us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you are a great mom too, Jody.
Well, thank you.
I hope you know that.
Yeah.
It's very obvious with their boys
Thanks.
seeing them with you. But to go back to the point you were making about getting ready for that,
Yeah.
I think we've seen this go the wrong way too.
Mm.
Was pulling them to adulthood as friends
Yeah.
instead of trying to stay where they are as friends.
Right.
We saw way too many parents still trying to be teenagers,
Yeah.
and that just didn't work out.
No.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, those are a lot of the
Instead of
marriages that
meeting
didn't
your
hang
kids
out.
where they're at, it's trying to bring them
Hmm.
up in maturity, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Don't talk to them like they're 14 when they're 14. Talk to them like they're 21, you know?
just don't try to be
I don't know.
17 either. That's the thing I'm getting at, really.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. The big takeaway that I just want to leave people with is parenting in itself doesn't end, it just evolves.
Hmm.
And there's just this tremendous amount of joy in watching your kids become adults and watching them live as adults. Um, don't lose sight of that when your 3-year-old is having a tantrum. Remember, it's just a season. It's just a season. And there are so many amazing moments yet to come.
Yep. And if you don't want to ask someone who's been through it, at least watch and take notes.
Yeah.
That's the that's the best way. I mean, we've
Yes.
had examples of
Yes.
that growing up, and I don't ever remember walking up to someone and saying,
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
How should I? When do I?" It was
Yeah.
more watching, seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And we have some good friends that have, without us prompting, have said they've watched our boys
Mm-hmm.
and they hope that that's what they can have with their boys.
Right.
So if that's success, then we will take it.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. I was thinking this morning, if you're a young adult entering marriage, I think one of the things that was really helpful for us is look for someone that you know that's a year into marriage, 5 years into marriage, 10 years, 20, 30 years into marriage. Like those different milestones, and just kind of observe them. Like what do you see? And if you have the opportunity, like, great, you're 10 years in, what should we know? Right? But like looking at those different milestones in marriage and like having those examples, like people that have been through this and been through this and been through this. I think for me, that was huge, right? We had a lot of couples that were at different stages of marriage that we could just kind of like, okay, I see where they're at and how their relationship looks different than this newlywed couple or this couple that's been at it 50 years. And like, I think it just gives you just layers of perspective that are really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the same thing with parents. So, who are the parents you know of infants, small children, teenagers, adult children? You know, it's really interesting to look at it through those different layers of perspective, I think.
Because it doesn't always have to be your own parents.
No, exactly.
You see all of the good and bad,
And it shouldn't
but
be your
just,
own parents. That shouldn't be the only lens you look through, right?
but what I was saying about the good and bad, you live with those parents every day of your life. So you know what worked, you know what didn't.
Yes.
And I guess our goal in terms of wisdom has always been learn from the good and learn from the bad. So,
It's all
and
learning
that's been
moments.
invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me making a comment on my parents at all. They were in love with each other. I saw that modeled all
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basis. Then you got to deal with the real life stuff all the
Absolutely.
time. So
Yeah.
okay, well, lots of parenting, adult friend parent
Mm.
conversations there, and
And if you're
good stuff to look
listening,
back on.
I hope that what you take away with this from this episode is we love our adult children, all of them, and we treasure our relationships with them beyond anything in this world.
Absolutely. All right, let's shift gears, Jode. Let's do a little wrap up on our weekly thing of anything you're listening to or reading right now.
Mm. Well, I've been enjoying like the throwbacks to our early years of marriage that you've been playing in the car this week. I will
Oh yeah.
say. Yeah.
Well, I guess I should probably go first then,
Yeah.
because obviously any given week I may be listening to a good amount of Switchfoot, but I had it on that. I always avoid it for some reason, but I turned on that smart shuffle
Mm-hmm.
through Spotify. So it's like my own playlist, but then they're like, "We think you might like this song mixed in there." So
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to this, through the list of Switchfoot stuff, and all of a sudden, some Stephen Curtis Chapman comes on, and it was the Speechless album. And we've
Yeah.
talked about this over the last couple times
Yeah.
about things that still hold up. And I had to go back and look. That was
Mm-hmm.
1999, 25 years ago, and the
Yeah.
first three or four
Yeah.
on that album were just still great. I wouldn't put them in the same genre at all with Switchfoot, but they knew I listened to them
Yeah.
him in the past or whatever. But
Yep.
anyway, I had to fire it up for you,
Yep.
and you thought the same thing, right?
Yeah. Stephen Curtis
But it's funny because
is
we did listen to some of his
legendary.
super old stuff like a year or so ago, and it did not hold up.
Yeah.
It was very dated.
Yeah.
25 years, that was a
Right.
sweet spot though. This one
Yeah.
was really good.
All right. So here's a question for you. That Speechless album, is there a moment in time it takes you back to?
I guess not.
Platte Lake? I think that album dropped that's a summer. It must have been the summer of 1999. And we listened to that in the car all the way to Platte Lake. Sam and Sarah were in the car
Hmm.
with us. They got to know that album really well over the course of that week. Sarah and Sam still remember Speechless and some of those songs on that
Really?
album to this day. And it reminds
That's
them
cool.
of
I
Platte
must have
Lake,
been grumpy dad
that Platte
driving.
Lake vacation. Yeah.
Traffic. Meow, meow, meow.
Maybe. Oh, so one other thing on the music front that I just want to share. So I was at PT yesterday, and it was just my PT and I in the clinic, and fired up some music. And the first song was a Need to Breathe song. And then the second, I don't even remember what the second song was or whatever. So I asked the PT, I'm like, hey, who put together this playlist? Thinking in the back of my head, this is 100% a Zach playlist. Sure enough, it was a Zach Spotify playlist. Like, just hearing the music on it, I'm like, this is my kid. This is his, like, it feels like him. And it was, which was just really cool. Like, I just heard it and I was like,
and then you had a whole
oh, yep,
conversation about with your
was
PT
great.
how much she loved him, and yeah.
because she's a Need to Breathe fan. It was great. Yeah.
All right, well, that was fun, Jode. Why don't we go ahead and wrap up season 2, episode 4.
Future fam, in case you listen to this someday and we've never met,
We love you.